Hi everyone and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking. And today I am making coconut cream pie in the microwave. So keep watching and find out how to do this wonderful pie in the microwave. Now, let's start right off. I have my pre-cooked docked pie crust, which you need to have before you can get started. Now, if you're going to make your own from scratch, that's great, but just remember to cook it and allow it to cool. And if you don't want to make one from scratch, you can buy one of the kind that are rolled up in a roll like a log. Roll that on your pie plate and cook that off. 425 degrees Fahrenheit, which I believe is 220 degrees Celsius, or 12 minutes in my oven. Could be 10 to 12 minutes in your oven. You have to check that out and see how that works for you. Okay? And you have to let it cool. And I told you all about docking and doing your pie crust so that it cooks properly when you're doing it. Okay, so look at my video on pastry in the food processor, and that will tell you how to do that. But docking is just a term that means taking a fork and pricking your pie crust all over the place in your pie crust so that it doesn't expand and fill your pie plate with pie crust while it's cooking. Other things you can do to it are you can put, some people have special weights for their pie crust that they put in the bottom of it to hold it down. Some people put a piece of parchment paper in the bottom of their pie plate and then fill it with beans, uncooked beans, and then you bake them off in your pie plate, and then you keep those beans just for using in your pie. Anyway, so starting off now on my recipe, now I'm going to be taking this cold milk and I'm going to be scalding it in my microwave because this is a microwave safe container. It's a Pyrex pitcher, but you can also get other kinds of microwave safe containers. It's something that holds 2 cups, which is 500 milliliters of milk. And I'm using homogenized or 3.25% milk here to do this. So if you're going to make coconut cream pie, why use skim? Or 2%, right? Use the real, use whole fat milk. So this is going to go into my microwave for 3 minutes at 80% power. I have a 1100 watt microwave, and if yours is a different wattage, you may have to adjust that time. I'll be back after I've scalded my milk. Okay, 3 minutes in the microwave and my milk is scalded, and you know what that means. It means that you have to have all kinds of tiny little bubbles around the top, down the sides, on the bottom, and your milk should be steaming hot but not boiling. You don't want to bring your milk to a boil. So you've just about brought it to the boil, but not quite. And if you can avoid getting a scum on top of your milk, bonus. But sometimes you do end up with a little scum, and that doesn't really hurt anything. So there's my hot milk. And now I'm going to take my microwave safe pitcher. Well, this is a pitcher, but you can use any microwave safe container. This one holds 8 cups or 2 liters, which I find is a good size for this recipe. Anyway, first of all, I'm going to add a half a cup of sugar. Don't worry, metric people, when I write this recipe out, I'll be putting in the metric equivalents. 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. That's in Canada, in the US, in the UK, and other places in the world. That's a different amount. And also a half a teaspoon, which is 2 milliliters of salt. So let's just put that in here. Here we go. And I'm just going to stir these together a bit. Just mix them together so they look like they're all one ingredient and not like sugar and flour and salt mixed. A nice homogeneous looking mixture here. And now I'm going to add a half a cup of milk, cold milk. This is cold milk. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time just to stir this to make sure that this stays smooth and doesn't get lumpy. So I just add a bit at a time here until I have my half a cup of milk added in here. I can actually even stir this rather awkwardly with my left hand while I pour it with my right hand, and that's it dissolves so readily it doesn't get anything. Okay, let me just stir this in. Change over to my right hand, which is less awkward for me because being a right-handed person. Okay. Now see my lump-free, very thin-looking. Doesn't look very much like a yummy pie. Yeah, it does it. Now I'm going to add my scalded milk. I'm just going to pour that in and stir as I go here. There we go. That's going right in there. And you can see now that I've emptied the pitcher, you can see the little bubbles all over the pitcher. That shows me that it's scalded. Like I said, 3 minutes at 80% power in my microwave. That's what it gave me. Now this is going into my microwave for 4 minutes. First of all, I have to bring it to a boil. And then I'm going to microwave it for 4 minutes till it thickens. And I want a nice thick filling for my pie. So, into the microwave it goes. And I'm going to microwave it till it comes to a boil, which is probably about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes in your microwave, or in mine, on high. Then I'm going to be stirring it every minute after that, so I can keep track of it, and also so no thicker parts of this, so it doesn't start to thicken unevenly. So I'll be back to show you that when it's finished. And while that is cooking away in the microwave, I'm going to separate my eggs. I've got my big bowl that I'm going to whip my meringue in, and my small bowl for my egg yolks. There. It's my technique. If you have to use a special fancy dancy machine to do that, hey, go for it. Here's a practice. Now, make sure you don't break your yolk when you do this. Make sure you don't have any yolk, any kind of fat at all, mixed in with your egg whites. Because if you do, your meringue will not beat up properly when you're beating it. Okay? It's really, really important. In fact, if I'm separating too many eggs, I will have a separate bowl for my egg whites and my egg yolks. Because if you have 10 in your bowl and you break one, that's a disaster. So, here we go. I'm just going to do this very confidently today. I'm sure this will work for me. These are nice fresh eggs. Just going to toss it back and forth a bit. And there you go. Yay! No broken egg whites. No broken egg yolks. 2 egg yolks in here, which I'm now going to beat up with a fork. You want to get out your whisk or your meat beaters or whatever you want to use, go for it. But this works really well for me. I just beat them up like this in my little bowl. This provides all the beating these egg yolks are going to need as far as I'm concerned. You want to beat yours more? Hey, go for it. Now this is going to provide some of the nice yellow, lemony yellow color for my pie filling. There you are. Done. And so on with the show. Alrighty. Here it is after being in the microwave for 4 minutes and then being heated for another 2 minutes besides that. Now if it starts to form any lumps, you just get your spoon down in there and give it a good vigorous stir, and that'll break those lumps up and make it nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm going to temper my egg yolks. And all that means is I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to put it in my egg yolks. And I'm going to stir it up. Because if you don't temper your egg yolks, you'll end up with scrambled eggs. Thank you, dear. I'll put a little bit more in. I want to bring the temperature of these egg yolks up to about the same temperature of what's in my bowl here. A little bit more. There. Just kind of stir that in nicely. There we go. And now I can stir my egg yolks into my filling. And there, just as I pour it in, I'm going to stir. There we go. So we don't want scrambled eggs. That won't make a nice pie filling. And now, scoop that out. And there we go. See how it's taken on a nice yellow color. Now into the microwave for about 30 seconds. And that will be ready. And now it's ready to add a teaspoon of vanilla and a tablespoon of butter, which I'm just going to eyeball off this piece of butter here. It's pretty cold, so unfortunately I forgot to get it out sooner. Hopefully that will melt nicely. I'm going to stir that in first and let that melt. And I have to tell you that today I had a little bit of a microwave disaster. I took my eye off it for too long, and guess what? It boiled over in the microwave. But No worries, I just scraped it off the sides and put it back in. It's just a little sticky. So there we go. My butter has melted. So now a teaspoon of vanilla goes in here. There you go. And also, I'm going to be adding, since this is a coconut cream pie, here's where my coconut goes in. A full cup of coconut goes in here. But you won't get that much coconut in a pie that you buy at even at a bakery. In it goes. Stir that all down into your lovely filling. And there you have it. There's your filling. And it says to cool it slightly. So here's your coconut cream filling. I'm just going to let that cool for about 5 or 10 minutes. Then I'm going to pour it into my prepared pie shell. And in the meantime, while it is cooling, I'm going to beat my meringue. Now that's a separate video, but I'll tell you how I do that. I have my 2 egg whites here on my stand mixer. I'll start whipping my meringue. Now I'll beat this with my stand mixer until it starts to froth up well. And I'm going to put a few grains of salt in there. Then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of sugar gradually as it beats. When it's done, you want your sugar to be completely dissolved. You don't want it to be grainy. And then by that time this will be cooled off, and I'll be able to put that into my pie shell. Then I'll be able to top it with my meringue. And when I topped it with my meringue, I'm going to sprinkle on 1/3 cup of, and this is a medium unsweetened coconut that I'm sprinkling on top of my pie, and that I use also in my pie. I don't like the long skinny, the long stringy stuff, because that's hard to eat in a pie. Also harder to cut. So once that's done, I'll be popping that into my oven, 400-degree Fahrenheit, 205 degrees Celsius oven for 7 to 8 minutes with the coconut sprinkled on top. And then you'll have my nice golden brown meringue and my nice golden brown coconut. So I'm just going to let this cool a bit, and I'll whip up my meringue while I'm doing that. And I'll be back to show you how I put my pie together. All right, and now I have my nicely beaten meringue, beat to stiff peaks, which just means, like, look at that nice peak that's on the top of my beater. That is what you want to look for. Now I have my filling, which has cooled slightly. My oven is nearly at temperature. I'm going to put my pie plate here. And now it's just a question of pouring my filling into my prepared pie plate. Here's my filling in my pie shell. Now, on goes my meringue. Now, I like to take my spatula and just make about 4 or 5 blobs all over my pie, just like that. I spread them around. Fill in any spaces that you've got. Do this delicately so you don't knock the air out of your meringue. And you just spread your meringue, being careful to get it to the edge of your pie crust, because you don't want your meringue to shrink while it's baking. And you just put that right out to the edge. Get that full coverage of your pie filling, just like that. Just make sure you fill in any little spaces. Try to keep it a nice consistent thickness. That's where I find putting blobs of it all over the place help. So then you can kind of join your blobs together. And now the last blob here. And that's just 2 egg whites in here that I've beaten up here. Okay. So there you go. Making sure I've got all of my holes filled in. And that doesn't look thin anywhere. If it does, I just kind of move some of the meringue around to cover that in. And now I just kind of take my spatula here and make some nice little curvy waves on top. Just pull them up. Like so. Just to make it pretty. Yeah, my clean finger. And now I'm just going to sprinkle my 1/3 of a cup of coconut over the top of my pie. Here we go. That's a generous amount of coconut on the top of your coconut cream pie. And then into the oven it goes for 7 to 8 minutes. It'll be all golden brown, and I'll bring it back to show you what it looks like when it comes fresh out of the oven. And here is my coconut cream pie, hot and fresh from the oven. And now I have to let this cool off to room temperature, and then I'm going to chill it before serving. Now you have to, it doesn't say how long to chill it, but the longer you chill it, the more firm your pie slices are going to be. I mean, they'll taste just fine, but they won't be pretty unless you let it set for quite a while. A couple of hours at least. I hope you enjoyed my video today, and I hope you'll like, subscribe, comment, try this recipe out at home, and come and see me next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.